Everyone is part of a bigger story. It's a bigger story than you can imagine. It's a big story about a really big God. Discover the story that shows you the character of God.
Hey friends, I'm Caleb, and this is, you know it, my Bible. Inside, we find 66 individual books. God inspired dozens of people over hundreds of years to write down the stories and wisdom inside of these pages. And together, they tell the epic story of how God made everything and loves us more than we can possibly imagine. When people chose their own way instead of God's way, the world was broken. God could have left us on our own, but instead, God created an incredible plan to bring us back into relationship. That's the source of true peace. And I've got 5 stories right in here to show us what it can look like. We're gonna get started in the book of Romans. Here, the Apostle Paul encourages the new believers in Rome, and he writes, "If possible, live in peace with everyone. Do that as much as you can. You can't control what other people say and do, but you can do your part by choosing kindness over winning an argument." Time to head back to the Old Testament and the very first book of the Bible. In Genesis, we read how God chooses one man, Abram, and promises to bless the whole world through his family. Abram trusts God's promise so much that when it comes time to divide land with his nephew Lot, Abram gives Lot first pick instead of picking a fight. We move ahead to 1 Samuel for our next story. David and his men have been protecting a rich man's flock of sheep. But when David asks the man Nabal to share some food, Nabal goes ballistic. David marches up the mountain to have it out with him. But before the two men meet, Nabal's wife, Abigail, steps in with a sweet solution. We head now to the book of Matthew. Remember God's plan to make peace? The final stage is about to begin. Jesus has been healing and teaching people how to love God and love others. As the Passover feast nears, Jesus rides into Jerusalem in the most unexpected way, making it clear that he's the promised one to rescue God's people. We wrap up in the book of Luke. During Passover week, Jesus is unfairly arrested and given a mock trial by the religious leaders. Then, he's sentenced to die. At any moment, Jesus could stop this terrible thing, yet he chooses to give up his life, to die on a rough wooden cross. It's the darkest moment the world has ever known. But, spoiler alert, you can't keep down the light of the world. God chose to come to us, to make a way for us to live forever with God, even though we were the ones who turned away. That's what true peace looks like. And I can't wait to see how it shows up in you and me.